In this video, we are going to learn about straightening UV shells, why we straighten them, and some methods in Maya to ensure that you get expected results with your straightened UVs. So to get started, let's talk about why we straighten UV shells. It's important to take note of the fact that you don't always have to straighten your shells. They are just straightened in specific instances where you may need to optimize your layout more, or maybe you need your textures to go in a certain direction. Let's take a look at some shells on this mesh that are not straight. So we have this one right here, which is taking on a curved form because of the shape of this object. And that's what all your UVs are going to do when you unfold them in Maya. Once you hit unfold, it's going to unfold in the exact shape of this object. This is often desirable because then you don't get stretched UVs and you will have those even squares all across. But in the case of this object, let's take a look at the checker box. You can see that these squares kind of rotate into this direction, and these ones do the same as well. And how this translates into textures, especially when it comes to textures like wood and cloth, is like this, where if you look at that part of this mesh with the wood texture applied, the wood is not really following a horizontal or vertical direction. It's going in a more slanted way that follows the shape. And this is not the actual behavior of wood. Wood usually either goes in the horizontal or vertical direction. And you might want to change these UVs so that this texture follows better. So let's see how to do this within Maya. I'm going to move this aside so I can focus on this UV shell. You have two options in your straighten settings. In the unfold menu, you have your regular unfold option. That's just going to unfold the shell. Then you have straighten UVs and straighten shell. Let's see what straighten UVs does. Sometimes this works. So let's go to UV mode, select all the UVs, and go to straighten UVs. And for this UV shell, that worked perfectly. And now let's take a look at what that gives us. That gives us this completely straight setup of UVs, which is easier to put in a UV layout. And it'll also ensure that your texture that you apply on this is evenly spread out. Once we straighten a few more of these UV shells, we'll see how that affects the wood texture in Substance Painter. But let's take a look at some shells that are not as straightforward and need a little more work. Something that you can do for parts like this, let's look at this UV shell, which is encompassing two areas. So there is a plane change over here, which is why this is curved. You could solve this by just cutting this edge as well. Let me cut that. And if you then unfold it, you get a straight shell without any effort because this is all a single plane. We have a small plane change here, but it's not as big as the other one. You could do that, and this will also unfold it. This might unfold straight. Actually not, it won't. So you could do that and then straighten the shell. But in case you don't want to add any additional cuts and you just want to straighten this UV shell, if the straighten UVs does not work, what you can do is you can select an edge that you want to be straight. Let's select this one, hit straighten shell, and that's going to completely straighten the shell. Let's check what we get. So this is the UV shell we're looking at. We do have some distortion on this. We can try hitting UV and straighten UVs and then try unfolding along the V and see what we get. And try to get something that is a straight UV shell but also has minimal distortion. And you'll notice that in a lot of meshes, you get too much distortion and you can't straighten the UVs as you want them to. In some meshes, like this one, you get minimal distortion and you get basically exactly what you want. You want your wood texture to be completely straight on this object. You can do that using the straighten shell. So straightening UV shells really depends on the mesh. It depends on the purpose of straightening. And if you straighten it and your mesh does not follow the shape of your object, you have to be prepared for a little distortion. And it is generally a decision that you make. UVs are never perfect. You always have some seams that you can't get rid of, and you have to decide which method works best for the textures. Straightening UV shells is often used in games because it makes the layout a lot easier, and once you get into something called trim sheets, it makes it a lot easier to reuse textures on different meshes because all the UVs are straight.